Want to be alive.
Doop 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 doo doo. Well, here we go again. Here we go again. From the top. Alrighty, everybody. Please find a comfortable position and invite a deep, satisfying breath into your body. Let's get this show on the road. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to our little corner of the internet. Welcome back to our little corner of outer space. Our little pocket dimension. The space that allows us the opportunity to prioritize our mental wellness. So I'm happy you could be here today as we make this journey into finding what we're really made of, what we really got, and just how far we can go. So, let me ask you this. How you doing? How you doing? Like the can? Yep. Stressed and depressed, but striving and thriving. I want to share with you one of the thoughts that really helped me whenever I was feeling depressed. I don't have depression. Depression has me. It's not me dealing with depression, it's depression dealing with my stubborn ass. So good luck, depression. You're gonna need it. Depression is so clingy. It's like a wet blanket. Just kind of clings to you, sticks to you. Makes you want to just lay down and just try your best to get comfortable. But oh, well, howdy, partner. Welcome back in, Alex. How you doing there, partner? Howdy. Howdy. All right, everybody. We've got an agenda. We've got a presentation to do today. I promised my buddy Meatloaf that we would talk about thought looping. And so I was going to talk about it yesterday, but then we ended up finishing that video that we were watching, so I didn't have time to talk about it. And so I figured, you know what? I want to put a presentation together. I'll put some slides together. It was a topic really worthy of getting into. I am a misanthrope? Well, how do you feel about it? Miranda, but what are your thoughts on micronaps? I'm more of a micro meditation kind of guy. You're proud of it? So do you view hatred as a virtue? Is hatred virtuous to you? Is this something to aspire to? Because I feel like hatred really just doesn't do us any favors. Carrying a lot of hate literally will result in negative health effects. It's literally bad for your body. You know, I feel like hate for others really just stems from a hate for ourselves. You know what I mean? I don't like to view life as a zero-sum game. A lot of people do get caught up in hate. It kind of gives them a sense of identity, it gives them a sense of vindication, it gives them a sense of purpose, but I don't know. It's just not that fun being a hater. It just kind of makes you miserable. You just see the worst in everything, you just can't really enjoy things anymore. It just kind of sucks. Any what? Like what? I haven't seen it. I want to love people, but then I won't have purpose anymore. Why can't that be your purpose? Why not find a new purpose? Because here's the thing, your purpose in life is whatever you make it to be. You actually do get to choose that. Nobody else decides that for you. A lot of people are scared of love because maybe early on in life, they were made to feel like love is very closely tied together with pain or fear, uncertainty. And so it becomes really complicated, really painful. We become suspicious of it. But I would say it takes more bravery to love than it does to hate. Hating is easy. Also, I don't feel like it's a genuine strength. I think it's more of just a projection of strength. You know what I mean? I think like the guys who drive the lifted trucks with the truck nuts and the, you know, the like, ooh, we get it. You're a big, tough guy. Way to go. Already partners. Alrighty, partners, let's get into it. Let's get into it. We've got a couple questions waiting in the box, so I'm going to take a crack at those. And then we're going to do our presentation. And then we'll see where that gets us. I started a little late today. It's my bad. I was helping put the new oven in. We got a new like wall-mounted oven, so I was helping lift it. Alrighty. But first, how are you feeling? I think I'm feeling compassionate today. I took a week off from stream because I was feeling a bit burnt out, and I could feel that compassion fatigue setting in. And I don't like that. Like, I don't want to be here trying to help people, but feel like I just have a hard time caring like I need to. You know what I mean? So I recognized that, and I'm like, I just need to take some time. I just need to sit on my couch and play Elden Ring. Having a lot of big trouble. I'm sorry to hear that. Anybody else need this wheel before I put it away? Everybody need the wheel before I put it up? Last call. I'm weird. I'm a weird dude. Not in a bad way, not in a creepy way, but in a fun way. I'm a fun weird. Anyway. Ooh, sentimental. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Very nice. I made it to the gym 2 days in a row. I've been journaling. I forget who it was. Somebody was in here the other week, and they were saying that they had been journaling, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do it too. I went out and got myself some new pens. And I've been journaling. Nothing too, nothing too wild, just little updates on what I was doing that day and how I felt about doing it. That's pretty much it. And sometimes it's nice to just put stuff into words. Oh, I got my Menards rebate finally. I mailed off a bunch of my rebate receipts from Menards, and I got my thing back. $224. Maybe I'll use it to go buy Casey a water fountain. She's been wanting a water fountain, like a decorative one. So maybe I'll get her a water fountain with my rebate money. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else need the wheel? Do I need to remind us why we use the wheel? I know it might seem a little silly. It might seem a little childish. It might seem like something you'd see on the wall in an elementary school. But it's important that we recognize our emotions. It's important that we practice identifying how we're feeling. When we learn how to properly identify how we're feeling, we can gain more control over how we feel. It also gives us a clearer trajectory of where we're at and where we're trying to go. Hey everyone, hey. I'm gonna go to the gym again today. I'm gonna go after stream, I think. I've been enjoying it. I'm a little sore. Not like super sore, but I haven't been working like super hard. Like I barely even break a sweat. I just kind of lift weights and do some stretching, do a little bit of walking. Ooh. Like I'm not going to the gym to impress anybody. I'm just going to get my body moving. You know what I mean? Because doing a little bit of something is better than doing a little bit of nothing. Or a lot of nothing. Alright. Wheel be gone. Say bye, wheel. I've been walking 15k steps per day. That's a lot of steps. I haven't been walking enough steps. Like, one of the things that I do when I go to the gym is I'll get on the treadmill and I'll just walk. I'll just walk on the treadmill for like 10 minutes before I do my workout. Just to like wake my ass up, you know what I mean? Right. We got some questions. So we're going to take those, and then we're going to slide over into our presentation. The topic we're covering today is we're going to talk about how we can break thought loops. This is one of those presentations where I was surprised. I was like, oh, I haven't done this one yet. I hadn't done this one yet. All right. But no, this was actually Meatloaf's idea, and we were going to talk about it a little bit yesterday, but then we ran out of time and I wasn't able to talk about it. So I figured, you know what? To make it up to you, I'm just going to make a presentation out of it, and we'll just do a whole thing. All right, but anyway, into the questions. I forgot I made it so tiny. I made it so tiny because I put this... I put this one on the fridge the other day. Somebody had something nice to say, so I put it on the fridge. My sister got a dog months ago to try to feel better and have purpose since she's struggling mentally. I've gotten to know this little guy for half a year. Now it's decided she cannot take care of him and he will have to be placed with another family. As I've spent more time with him than my sister has, I'm super sad. I'm trying to think positively, that this is what's best for Mr. Puppy, but I'm so sad that I might not ever see him again. He has a big personality. It's just a loss I never expected, you know? And it's not even my puppy. In just a few weeks I'll be going to study. I don't know how to get over this grief in time to be happy and friendly when meeting the people I'm going to spend 3 years with. How do I recover fast? This is super hard. I'm trying to be positive. He's not dead, but he will be gone. I'm gonna miss him so much. Alright. Allow yourself to feel how you're feeling. That is how you get through it. If you need to feel sad right now, allow yourself to feel sad right now. And I think that there is a part of you that does recognize, you know, that this is for the best. Because I feel like if a person gets a pet and they recognize that they can't take proper care of it, even though it's sad, they're doing the right thing in finding a better family for it. I feel like that's an important and mature decision that people have to make. I think that by the time you go to study and, you know, you're going to be spending time with new people, I feel like you will be able to move past this. But sometimes whenever we're feeling grief in the moment, and that's what you're feeling right now, is you're feeling grief. So allow yourself to feel it. But one of the things about grief, and as someone who's been through grief, I'm sure that other people will be able to relate to this too, whenever you are in that feeling, it makes it very hard to look beyond it. Whenever we're dealing with that feeling of loss, it makes it very hard to see like what life will be like after it. I've had it happen to me. I'm sure that other people have had it happen to them as well. Grief is just something where it's like it's like being in a fog and you can't see the horizon because you're just like, I'm just gonna be here forever. I'm always gonna feel this way. I'm always gonna be this sad. When in reality, you won't. You will get through it. But don't pressure yourself to get through it in any amount of time, because that might actually make it last longer than it needs to, because then you're gonna start tying other things into that feeling of grief. You're going to start feeling like guilt or shame or, you know, anxiety tied in with the grief, and we don't want to complicate things. So just allow yourself to feel what it is that you're feeling for as long as you need to feel it. And if you do that, you will get through it. And I would be willing to say that you will probably get through it sooner than you think. As long as you're able to allow yourself to feel what it is that you're feeling. Sorry that you gotta go through this, but I feel like, you know, you'll always have those memories and that time that you shared together. And that's what matters. If you're gonna miss him, miss him. Allow yourself to feel it. But don't force yourself to get through this faster than you need to. You know what I mean? Just take the time you need. You'll be alright. I got this problem that I want to fix because, duh, it's something pretty awful. But let's say I like a girl / boy. The second they show interest in me, I stop and don't care for them anymore. This could be with people I actually like and want more with, but I think subconsciously I just want their attention as validation and don't know how to not act this way. Ah. I feel like this is one of the things that is taught to people when they are young, growing up. They're taught to, attract attention, but when people give you attention, to push them away. It kind of creates this cognitive dissonance within us. You know what this reminds me of? I'm going to compare this to cat behavior for a minute, so bear with me. Or maybe dog behavior. But like, have you ever seen a cat or a dog and they will like chase something? They will chase, a squirrel or a bird. The thrill of the hunt. And then they catch it. And then they just looked confused. They're like, what do I do with this? Well, what do I do now? There's a part of us that kind of operates in a similar way. There's a certain thrill in the hunt. And that's kind of what, finding a relationship is like. It's like going out on a hunt. What I would recommend is I would just sit down and just try to ask yourself these questions and just try to figure out why you respond this way. Because I think you're really onto something. I think that when you mentioned that subconsciously you're just looking for attention as validation, I think you might be onto something there. And so I think these are things that you're going to have to kind of figure out on your own and in your own time. Because if I just told you the answers or what to do, I don't think it would really make sense. Because I think this is just a part of learning and a part of growing that you can't really do for somebody else. And so what I would recommend is just sit down and just think about it. Why do I respond this way? Why do I have a hard time showing care for people once they show interest in me? What would it be like if I didn't do that? So we want to try to visualize, what would it be like if I didn't do this thing? What would it be like if I did something different? Let's say that someone did show interest in me and I showed interest back in them. What would that be like? And this might bring up some things within you that you can then start to think about and start to process and you'll get to know yourself better. And that's a good thing. Sometimes we like being interesting. We like people to be interested in us. But then whenever we let people in, that can make us feel vulnerable. that can be more difficult than just, having people admire us from a distance. It's a different set of circumstances, a different set of vulnerabilities. And then we have to really start dealing with our own internal insecurities. And so I would just give yourself the time you need to try to figure this out. And what I would recommend is just think about, what would it be like if I did the opposite of what I normally do? How would that make me feel? What would that look like? And that can be a good way to start processing and figuring those questions out. I'm doing well at fighting my anxiety these days. It feels awkward to force myself to speak in group settings, but I'm still alive. I'm getting better. I just wanted to share. Hey, let's go! Alright, let's do it. Let's go. You're doing great. And I think what might help you to take it to the next level, because I feel like you're coming up to a point where you're getting ready to take it to the next level, is I want you to try to change how you view your anxiety. Oftentimes we view anxiety as our enemy, when in reality, anxiety is just our overactive protector. It's very overbearing, it's very worrisome. It's like, well, what about this? What about that? Well, how could this hurt me? How could that hurt me? What could go wrong if I did this? What could go wrong if that happened? It's exhausting. And so what you want to do with that anxiety is you want to train it. You want to turn it into your ally. You want to turn it into a tool. Because that's what helps you to stay at your sharpest. And so when you're ready, view it not as I am fighting against my anxiety, I am fighting with my anxiety. My anxiety is trying to help me. It just doesn't know how to help me in the best way. And so you have to teach it. You have to teach it how it can be a better help to you. Anxiety. It's like an overactive, overeager toddler with a submachine gun. You gotta train it. But you're doing great. You're doing great. Keep up the good work. You're getting ready to level up. I saw a news article about anxiety and Parkinson's link, especially among women. I've had chronic anxiety for a very long time, and now I'm worried about potentially getting Parkinson's. Can you explain the link and how also I can minimize the risk aside from meditating and exercise? Meditating and exercise are going to be the two biggest things that can help you in that. So I just want to get that out of the way. I know that you said to minimize it aside from that, but we will talk about other things. We will talk about other things, but I just want to remind you that those are two of the most important ones to do. Now, when I say exercise, it doesn't have to be anything intense. This could just be going for a walk. The link between anxiety and Parkinson's. Let's look it up. Let's try to find this article. I really like how you talk about anxiety, depression, etc. Like they are the enemy that you're fighting with. I remember being in a really deep depression and thinking like this is my personality. They are your enemy and you are fighting them, but I want you to remember what the best thing to do with an enemy is. One good option for how to handle an enemy is to defeat them. Defeat them utterly. But I think the best thing to do with an enemy is to turn them into an ally. All right. Let's look at this one. This one's from the Washington Post from June 30th. So this one is behind a paywall. First, we need to know our enemy really well. Know thyself, know thy enemy, 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Anxiety is tied to a doubling of Parkinson's risk. People with anxiety have at least double the risk of developing Parkinson's compared to those without the mood disorder, results show. Okay, but why? Researcher says they also need to figure out why anxiety might be linked to Parkinson's. So they don't know. They just say that it is. All right. Well, let's break it down. Okay, so Parkinson's is related to a breakdown in your body's ability to produce enough dopamine. When you think Parkinson's, one of the major things that causes issues with Parkinson's is that you don't have as much dopamine in your brain. As your dopamine levels start to fall, signs and symptoms of Parkinson's disease begin to reveal themselves. And so there's a strong correlation between Parkinson's and dopamine levels. It stands to reason that if you are a very anxious person, that you wouldn't be experiencing as much dopamine, because your brain would be preoccupied by other things and it wouldn't really be able to experience those levels of joy and satisfaction that dopamine give you. Okay, so Parkinson's is related to a decrease in dopamine. What does anxiety do to dopamine? The study says that they weren't really able to find much of a link. Okay. gonna grok this. Yeah, I need to grok it. Probably indirect. Yeah, well, what I'm thinking is, you know, anxiety is bad for you physiologically in the long run. Like, if you have a high level of anxiety, it is not good for you. And I think that this is just another example of how that is true. So as far as why specifically it happens, it's hard to say, because human neurology and like the biochemistry of your brain is a very complicated balancing act. Whenever one neurotransmitter goes up, another neurotransmitter very often goes down. Dopamine primes the brain for enhanced vigilance. Oh. Okay. Hold on, I'm grokking. If dopamine primes the brain for enhanced vigilance, and then you get a sense of reward for your own vigilance, because that's kind of one of the things that keeps anxiety going, is that you feel rewarded in your anxiety. You feel justified in, you know, doing the things that you need to do to not feel anxious. So if you see danger and then you do something to protect yourself from that danger, your brain interprets it as a reward. So you might actually be getting more dopamine as a result of your anxiety. And it is possible that this heightened level of dopamine could, over time, potentially harm your dopamine pathways. I don't know. This is just me speculating. But to sum it up, basically just being in a heightened state of anxiety for a long period of time wears out your dopamine system, which could increase the chance of developing something like Parkinson's disease. That's just me just speculating. Just a speculation. Anyway. Outside of practicing meditation and exercise, I would say that taking time to practice your hobbies, taking time to do mindful breathing, grounding exercises, you know, addressing the anxiety that's tucked away in your body can be helpful. Making sure you're, you know, doing some stretches, maybe getting some massage, taking a nice bath. But really, ultimately, meditation is probably one of the best things to help to learn how to reframe your anxiety. So, I gotta say, if you find meditation to be a struggle or a challenge, push through it. It will get easier. You will get better at it. It won't be so difficult. Hi, everyone. So, I've been experiencing high levels of anxiety and stress this month. So much so that I've been having physical symptoms such as headaches, general muscle aches, stomach aches, etc. How can I minimize my symptoms? There's a technique that I think you might enjoy. Progressive muscle relaxation. Progressive muscle relaxation. It can help with these types of things that you were talking about. Progressive muscle relaxation is really easy. It's really easy to do. And it operates under this principle that if you put a certain part of your body under tension, the only thing you have to do to relax that part of your body is to release that tension. So I want you to try it in your hand. I want you to curl your hand into a ball. I want you to tighten it as much as you can. Don't hurt yourself. Don't, just enough to where you really feel it. You feel that tension in your hand. And then I want you to let it go. But as you let it go, I want you to focus on what feeling replaces the tension. All right? So we're tense, and then we let go. Now what does it feel like? What feeling replaces that feeling of tension? It's relaxation. Is what relaxation feels like. And so progressive muscle relaxation is doing that throughout your whole body. You can start at the top of your head and then work your way down. You can start at the bottom of your feet and work your way up. But it's a great way to just reintroduce relaxation throughout your entire body. So all you have to do is clench, hold it for a moment, and then let it go. This can help with stuff like chronic pain. This can help with blood pressure. This can help with headaches or migraines. It can help with TMJ. So it's easy to do. They even have scripts. You can go on YouTube. You can find a guided audio recording where somebody can walk you through it. So I would recommend giving it a try. Probably the best time to try is when you are getting ready for bed. Just lay down in bed and take 20 minutes to give this a try before you go to sleep. I found that this was one of the most helpful things in getting to sleep if I was feeling like restless or insomnia. I found that doing this helped to tire my body out. It helped to put my body into a state of relaxation so that I could fall asleep easier. So that's my number one recommendation. And I think that you'll notice some positive effects pretty quickly. So I would just give that a try and let me know how that works for you. The cool part about it is this, it also doubles as meditation. It's basically a form of meditation. So I would give that a try. You'll probably notice that what it also will do is it will help you to become more aware of where in your body you are holding your tension. If you want to ease the tension that you're holding in your body, you have to pay attention to it. Gotta pay attention to your tension. Don't forget to breathe. Hi, Dr. Domain. Hello, Dr. Bobby. Just doctor to doctor. Did you hear that Dr. K got a reprimand? I didn't get a reprimand. I'm joking. I'm joking. But no, I think it really does just showcase why it's so difficult to do mental health online. I want you to try something else. I want you to try this. I want you to give me your most relaxed breath possible. Maybe you're on a beach. Maybe you're out in the forest. Maybe you're laying out on a picnic blanket in your favorite park. Y'all hear Bobby Goldbars Menendez resigned? Who? I'm not sure who that is. Indicted on federal bribery charges? Gold bars and wads of cash? A senator from New Jersey? Well, what else can you expect from a senator from New Jersey? Not the gold bars. What are you gonna do with a gold bar? Like, I'm sorry, but if shit hits the fan, what the fuck are you gonna do with a bar of gold? It's just a really shiny paperweight. Yeah, we're gonna eat it. We're gonna eat it. I just figured out me and my wife are having a baby boy. This is the most happy day of my life! Congratulations! Got a great business. I married the love of my life. I own the car I want. I've retired my mom, and I paid for my siblings' colleges. Everything is the best it's ever been. But I have some concerns. I could probably retire now, but I'm not going to quit now. But I'm concerned life will get inane and pointless because of my success. Honestly, isn't that a great worry to have? I think this really just showcases that worry is innately human. And that even when you have everything you want, we still worry that things are going to get boring and pointless. But isn't that a good worry to have? Of all the worries you could have. Because the human brain loves to worry. That's not a bad one to have. So, do I become more family focused? Do I expand my career, focus on God? I just don't want life to be the same old thing. I want to feel like I have a sense of purpose in the coming years. You do. You're having a baby. It's a great sense of purpose. I would say this, there's room for all of those things. But I feel like of all of those things, getting to know yourself better and to getting to develop your relationship with your family, you won't regret. Also, if you have some suggestions on how to raise kids to not be waiters, aka waiting for me to die, I want my kids to be important members of society and not leeches who just take my money. Any suggestions from you or chat would be much appreciated. Alright. Here's the thing. There's no guarantee. Whenever it comes to parenting a child, all we can do is try our best, right? There's no guarantee. Sometimes you do everything right and they still indict you. But I would say this. One of the things that's really important in developing a relationship with a kid is to celebrate their identity and not to just try to make a copy of your identity. If they show interest in something, get interested with them. Show them things that you are interested in, but don't insist that your interests become their interests. Because I feel like that can lead to resentment, that can lead to distance, that can lead to, like you were fearful of, just waiting. And so I would say just teach them the importance of having good morals, having integrity, doing the right thing even when no one's watching. All you can do is try your best. Sometimes you do your best and your kid still ends up with trauma. You brought up a good point there, November Gay. You brought up a good point there. Because pain and trauma is largely subjective to the person that experiences it. You could have a life where you want for nothing, but then on your 16th birthday, instead of getting you the Mercedes, your dad got you a Toyota, and you were never more embarrassed in your entire life. All of your friends were there, it was your sweet 16, and you didn't get the car that you wanted. And you were embarrassed in front of all your friends and family, and that was traumatic to you. Now, to most people that would seem silly, but you have to remember that pain and trauma are subjective. But no, I would say it's really important to just make time for them, If you have to choose work over spending time with your kids, they're gonna remember that. And they might not see it the way that you see it. They might have a hard time handling those types of things. So I would just say, as much time as you can spend with them, because that's time you're never gonna get back. You've only got so much of it. I would just try to instill those values and virtues into them at a young age, just teach them the importance of right from wrong. Just teaching them the importance of, apologizing and having accountability when you do something wrong or you hurt somebody. And I think you'll do great. I think you'll do great. And part of how I know that is because you are worried about them turning out to be good. You want them to grow up to be moral and equitable and kind and responsible and to have integrity. And that's a good thing. And so, will there be mistakes that are made? Absolutely. Will there be bumps on the road? Will there be things that are confusing or uncertain? Absolutely. But I feel like you've got a good heart, and you've got a good head, and that'll get you really far. So all you can do is try your best. But I just think back to my own childhood, and I feel like one of the things that was really important to me growing up was just feeling like my parents were interested in what I was interested in. Like, I wanted to feel like they wanted to get to know me better. And a lot of parents don't do that. A lot of parents don't take the time to, take their child's perspective into consideration. They kind of just dismiss them as just, oh, you're just a kid. And that can make them feel invalidated. And that can make them resentful. And so I would just say, just be there for them the best you can. Also, a lot of what you're trying to teach them will be done by example. A lot of these things might not be things that you actually have to sit down and talk to them about. A lot of it will just be things that you do. So if you make an effort to be, charitable and kind and to have integrity and, to not avoid accountability, they will learn from that. They will learn by watching you. Kids learn a lot more by watching their parents than they do by what their parents tell them. They're always watching. It's like Big Brother. But no, congratulations. That's really exciting. Congratulations. All right, we're caught up on the questions for now, so I think we're gonna get into this presentation in just a moment. I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break before we do that. We're gonna do a presentation on how to break free of thought loops, aka rumination. So don't miss it. It's a good one. Give me just a moment. We'll take a brief break. Hang out with these cats for a minute. I'll be right back. Calm it down, you two. Calm it down, you two. Oh, the gray one's trying to get in on it. Oh my god, he's zooming. Did you know that you can go to the animal shelter and you can go into the kitten room with all of their kittens and play with a bunch of kittens and it's totally free? Did you know that? The challenge, though, is leaving without a kitten. That's the hard part. Alright, caught up on the questions. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Are we ready? Are you ready for the show to get started? Are you ready? Rumination. This was one of, every once in a while I cover a topic and I'm like, how have we not covered this one already? Well, we're covering it today. So, rumination. Let me turn down my tones a little bit. Rumination. A fancy word for thought looping. Have you ever felt like your thoughts have just gotten caught in a spiral? Have you ever felt like your thoughts have just been looping? You just can't escape them. You just get stuck thinking a certain set of thoughts. That's rumination. So today, we'll be talking about what rumination is. We'll be talking about why we do it, because everybody does it. And we'll also talk about some strategies on how we can break free from it. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's get going. All right, what is rumination? Rumination is when we repeatedly think the same thoughts. And these thoughts are very often sad or dark. These could be, very grim thoughts, or maybe they're thoughts that invoke feelings of guilt or shame or worry. We tend to just get caught in that cycle. Rumination, also known as thought looping. It's when you kind of are stuck in a mental replay of things that have happened to you in the past. Maybe you had something bad happen to you, maybe something traumatic, something painful, something stressful, or something that you feel ashamed of, something that you feel guilty about, and you find yourself stuck thinking about it. And you feel like you can't break free of it. So let's describe some of the characteristics of rumination. Number 1, persistent and repetitive thoughts. Number 2, the focus of these thoughts tends to be on negative emotions and experiences. We don't really find ourselves thought looping on positive things. Isn't that interesting? It seems to be something that primarily, basically exclusively happens with negative thoughts and feelings. Wouldn't it be nice to thought loop on good thoughts? could probably train your brain to do it. I'm working on it. I'll see how it goes. I'll let you know. Another characteristic is that there is a difficulty in shifting our attention away from these thoughts. So these thoughts are persistent, they're repetitive, they're negative, and it's difficult to shift away. Even though these thoughts are making us uncomfortable, even though these thoughts are bringing us stress, it's hard to think about other things. Rumination is something that commonly occurs as a result of anxiety and depression. Any questions so far? We're just getting into it. Any questions about what rumination is? Does this make sense? We all on the same page? So, why do we ruminate? Why does our brain do this thing? And this isn't just something that only some people do. This is something that a lot of people get caught up into. This is something that we collectively, as a species, have a hard time dealing with. Maybe it could be a past event. Maybe it could be an interaction that we had with our siblings growing up, or our parents. Maybe it was something that happened in grade school. Maybe it was something that happened years ago. But we find ourselves thinking about it, ruminating over it. So why? Why do we do that? The simplest way to explain it is we ruminate because we still feel like there's something I can learn from this. There's still something to be gained by thinking about this. If I just think about it a bit more, I will uncover some sort of hidden truth that has been eluding me. Let's dive a little bit deeper. The psychological factors of why we ruminate. As we mentioned earlier, anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression can really ramp up the levels of rumination that a person experiences. Now, rumination might exist in well, I'll just say like a baseline, kind of like an average person. Like maybe, I'll give you an example. Maybe it's very situational. Maybe it only happens to a person during the holiday season, when they have to go to their family's house and they have to see people that they haven't seen in a while and people that they normally avoid. And it brings up old memories and it leads them to ruminate about past occurrences. And so it's normal for rumination to happen at certain points of stress for a person who might not otherwise be diagnosed with something like anxiety or depression. But when you have anxiety or depression, you're going to experience this level of rumination much more frequently. It's going to be a nearly daily occurrence. For some people, it might be a daily occurrence. For some people, it might be an all-day, everyday kind of thing. You might have a hard time doing what you need to do because you're so fixated and so focused on things that have happened in the past. Another factor to consider is perfectionism. If we hold ourselves to an overly high standard, and we have this fear of making mistakes, it leads us into overthinking. And overthinking is an example of a form of ruminating. And so it's really important that we treat ourselves fairly, because perfectionism isn't like when people are dealing with perfectionism, they rationalize it and they justify it. They say, "Oh, I need to be a perfectionist because it makes me perform better." In reality, it actually makes you perform worse most of the time. You're holding yourself to too high of a standard. And so you become overly fixated on your perceived flaws, your perceived mistakes. You say, "Why did I do that? Things would have been so much better if I didn't do that. Things would have been better if I did this instead. Why didn't I do that instead? Why did I do that thing?" You can see how the loop is starting to form. Why did I do that thing? Why did I do that thing? Things are bad because of that thing that I did. If I had done this thing differently, things would be good. So why did I do that thing? It leads to an inability to trust yourself, and it creates difficulty in making decisions. It can lead you into perfectionism paralysis, where you have a hard time even beginning a task because you are so fixated on doing it correctly. It's not always about getting it right. Sometimes it's just about getting it started. Another psychological factor of rumination is unresolved issues. These are these types of lingering problems from early on in our lives that lack closure. Maybe there was parental abuse. Maybe there was bullying or some other form of trauma that you dealt with early on in life. And you find yourself looking back and becoming stuck in these thoughts about it. You find yourself looking back and asking yourself, why? And a lot of this has to do with the fact that on some level, whether we are aware of it or not, the reason why we do this is because we feel like if I continue to think about it, if I continue to revisit it, I will figure out something about it that I feel like I need to learn. There's something here that I need to learn, something I need to figure out. There is an unanswered question that I am trying to answer. But in reality, there might not be an answer. There might not be a satisfying answer. Maybe you were mistreated in life just because the person who mistreated you was an asshole. And that's all there is to it. I enjoy ruminating. Biological factors. When you have an imbalance in your brain, it can put you in a position where you are more likely to ruminate. Now here's the important thing to consider. Which causes which? Is it the rumination that contributes to the brain imbalance? Is it the imbalance that contributes to the rumination? I would say it's probably a little bit of both. Maybe if you have you have an imbalance in your brain and it's making you feel depressed, and it's causing you to ruminate more, that could influence the imbalance. That could make the imbalance worse. And so the brain of a person who is stuck in these phases of ruminating, their brain chemically looks different than the brain of somebody who does not. Because there's certain neurotransmitters that are associated with this type of thinking. Let's also talk about our stress response. If you deal with chronic stress, it can lead you to ruminate even more. If you have chronic stress, how does that affect the way that you view the world? How does that affect the way that you view your own experiences? How does it affect the way that you view your relationships, your choices? As it turns out, being stressed more often causes you to think more about things that stress you out. Is that a shock? Does that shock anybody? Is anybody surprised by that? Probably not. Let's talk about the cognitive patterns. The way in which you think. People who tend to be caught in negative thought patterns. People who tend to focus on the negative aspects of life. We also call these people haters. I'm joking, but only kind of. By focusing more on the negative aspects of life, it will lead you more into these cycles of rumination. Because as we talked about earlier, rumination is a result of negative types of thoughts. We don't really ruminate and start looping when it comes to positive things. Isn't that interesting? Huh. Huh. Human mind wants to be sad. No, human mind wants to be happy, but human mind is very good at finding things to be sad about. I don't think it wants to be sad. Another thing that contributes to rumination is overgeneralization. This is when we draw a broad conclusion from a single event. I made a mistake at work. I am a failure. I made one mistake. Even though everybody makes mistakes, even though mistakes happen, I identify as a failure because of this mistake that I have made. This also ties into the human negativity bias. Negative thoughts, negative emotions are doubly impactful on our mind as positive events. And I believe that this is due in part to the fact that we are overly aware of the negative because we are trying to protect ourselves from harm. And so it's more important to be aware of the things that can harm you because that keeps us safe. So to summarize, why do we ruminate? Because we're trying to learn. We're trying to figure something out. We're trying to, we find ourselves revisiting things and getting stuck in these thought loops about these things because we're trying to uncover some sort of bit of knowledge that we haven't found yet. When in reality, how much is there to learn from the things that happened to you when you were a child? Like, maybe you had something traumatic. Maybe there was an issue with abuse or neglect. How much is there to learn? How much more to learn is there? I'll give you an example. Sometimes people who have been mistreated, neglected, abused early in life, they find themselves looking back at the events that happened to them, and they find themselves thinking things like, wow, my parents were so terrible. Well, I wasn't that great either. Maybe they were just trying their best and I was actually the one to blame. Maybe my parents were actually right about me. Maybe I actually am terrible. And then the loop starts over again, and you just get stuck in it. Sometimes we have, okay. It's really hard for our minds to be okay with there not being an answer or a conclusion. We look back and we ask ourselves, why? Sometimes there just is no answer to that question. Sometimes we have to let things go so that we can just focus on moving forward. It's like Einstein said, life is like riding a bicycle. If you want to keep your balance, you gotta keep moving forward. Alright. Any questions on why we ruminate before we move on? Really had to sum this up a lot, but I feel like we got the general idea of why it happens. Before we get into the what do we do about it? We good? Alright, let's carry on. So, how do you stop ruminating? This is why everybody's here. We're like, enough with the why. Tell me what to do about it. And here's the thing. Understanding why it happens is actually really important in doing something about it. If you understand the nature and the cause and the mechanisms behind why something happens, it empowers you to do more about it. So that's why we talk about why it happens. Because if you understand the why, it helps you to move forward into the what. Number 1, mindfulness and meditation. If rumination exists in your mind, if it is a loop of your thoughts, the best way to change those thoughts is through mindfulness and meditation. If you find yourself ruminating, practicing your mindfulness, things like deep breathing, grounding yourself in your body, it can help you to shift your focus. And sometimes that is all that we need to do. Just focus on your body for a moment. I want you to try to ground yourself. What does your body feel like where you are seated? What do your clothes feel like against your skin? What are your senses telling you? When we take ourselves out of our mind and we put ourselves into our body, it's a great way to step out of these types of ruminating thought loops. Will focused meditation have different results than mindfulness? I would say they are both important. Because meditation and mindfulness are very closely entwined. You can't really do one without the other. When you do these mindfulness practices, in reality, these are just a different form of meditation. There are types of meditation where all you do is sit there and focus on your breath. There are types of grounding, body or meditation exercises where you work your way through different parts of your body, like body scanning meditation. Hey, Meatloaf, how's it going? You're right on time. What does the air in the room that you are in feel like against the surface of your skin? What can you hear? What sort of things can you see? How do your clothes feel against your skin? How do your feet feel against the ground? Grounding ourselves is and I'll be completely honest, when I first started practicing grounding myself, it felt silly. I will be completely honest with you. You might be sitting there saying this is silly. And it does feel silly in the beginning. But with some practice, what you will find is that you can pull yourself out of any type of negative thought pattern if you can just put your awareness out of your mind and into your body. What are my senses telling me? Because at any moment in time, your body is being overloaded by sensory information. There are sounds, there are sights, there are smells, there are sensations that are flooding your sensory inputs. And so any type of thought that you might be having can be overwritten if you focus on your senses. It really is helpful and it really does work. And so if it feels silly, I get that. It felt silly to me when I first started practicing it. But now it's something that I am very grateful that I took the time to learn how to do better. Because no matter what situation I'm in, if I start to feel stressed or overwhelmed, I just take a moment and put myself into my body and out of my mind. And then I feel much more clear. I feel much more in tune. I feel much more prepared to face whatever it is that I'm facing. All right? Meditation. This is going to be another really important one. If you want to change the relationship that you have with your thinking, meditation is the best way to do it. Because here's something that you might notice. If you find yourself ruminating, and then you were to try to meditate, what you might find is that those thoughts that you normally would ruminate over will present themselves to you. And so, what you will come to learn in meditation is that you have a choice in how you respond to those thoughts. One of the things that I found helpful in overcoming rumination was to let those thoughts in. I recognized that the only reason that my mind was holding on to those thoughts, those memories, those beliefs, whatever they may be, was because there was a part of me that was trying to figure out, what do I do with this? I must be holding on to it for a purpose. There must be a reason why I am still thinking about this. This is one of the ways that our brain likes to trick us. We feel like just because we are thinking a thing, that it must be important. You can't deny it. You can't deny it. You've done it too. You've done it too. I've done it. You've done it. One of the things our brain likes to do is it likes to reaffirm the importance of its own thoughts. The fact that you thought it must mean that it's important to you. Surely I would not have thought something for no reason. Surely there must be a point and a purpose to this thought. Not necessarily. The average person has about 50,000 thoughts a day. That's a new thought about every 2 seconds. How many of those are going to be great? How many of those are going to be meaningful and worthwhile? How many of them are just going to be nonsensical or silly or daydreamy or, just meaningless? And so what's really important to remember is that your thoughts are only as important as you allow them to be. And so in practicing meditation, you can learn the technique where whenever your mind presents you with a thought, you have the opportunity to say, how important is this to me? Should I keep this or should I let this go? Because let's be real. Let's be real. When we find ourselves ruminating or thought looping about stuff that happened in the past, let's be real. How much is there to really learn about it? How much is there to really uncover? How much is there left to be discovered? Probably not much. And even if there is something that's still to be uncovered, it might not even be that meaningful or that significant, at least compared to the amount of time and energy you're putting into it. But your brain is primed to be overly fixated on the negative. We have a negativity bias. It exists within all humans. And so we get caught up in the things that have been negative within our life, and we assume that thinking about them must be important because I thought it. This is what I want you to try to learn how to do in meditation. And this won't take you long to practice. This maybe a couple weeks to get to this point where you can start doing this. What I want you to do is I want you to make a distinction within your mind. I want you to separate the part of you that thinks from the part of you that is aware that you are thinking. The part of you that is aware that you are thinking is a separate and distinct part of your mind, of your consciousness, than the part of your brain that decides, what should I think about at this point in time? And so what I want you to do is lean into that part of you that is simply aware. The quiet observer part of your psyche. Lean into that part of you and just allow yourself to watch your thoughts flow by. Without judgment, without attachment, and just allow yourself to go with the flow. What helped me break out of rumination was whenever my mind would present me something that I felt like I was going to ruminate over, something negative from the past or whatever it may be, I would tell myself, okay, if this is so important for me to think about, and I need to learn something from this, or I'm trying to, glean insight from this or something, I'm going to allow myself to think it. I'm going to think it like I've never thunk it before. I'm going to think it to my utmost, so that I can be done with it. When I am certain that there is absolutely nothing else that I can glean from this thought that I am having, I am done with it. I can let it go. It's like an old book that you've read 1,000 times and you're ready to let it go. All right. Let's move into some cognitive behavioral techniques. Thought stopping. This is where you actively interrupt the cycle of your negative thoughts. When you catch yourself looping, I want you to say, hold on, I'm looping. What do I want to do next? What do I want to do instead? So you catch yourself in the act of looping. And we want to be kind to ourselves when we do this. We want to be compassionate with ourselves when we do this, all right? We don't want to say, oh my God, I'm looping again. I'm such a piece of shit. Why am I doing this? I'm trying not to do this. Why am I doing this? Oh my God, I can't stop looping. What the fuck is wrong with me? No, don't do that. I want you to say, okay, I'm looping. I am aware that I am looping. This is good. Because how am I supposed to do anything about my looping unless I catch myself when I am looping? This is exactly what I'm supposed to do. This is a good thing. So what do I need in this moment? Do I need to distract myself? Do I need to find something else to think about? Do I need to start engaging in one of my hobbies? Do I need to call a friend? Do I need to call somebody that I care about? You are practicing breaking the cycle. I'm gonna tie these two things together. Meditation and these cognitive behavioral techniques. What I found to be helpful is when I would find myself ruminating or looping in meditation, I would try to envision that loop within my mind as if it was a physical object. It is an actual loop, and I can see it within my mind's eye. And then I would imagine the loop breaking apart. shattering into pieces. And I actually found that to be helpful. I actually found that to be helpful in breaking free from that loop. Just envisioning the loop as a physical thing, and then envisioning it shattering into pieces. The key with these cognitive behavioral techniques is to become an active participant in your own thinking. Rather than just being a passenger within your mind, you are in the driver's seat. And if you feel like you're stuck just turning in one direction, turn a different direction. Stop the car. Get out of the car. Start walking. Do something different. That's the whole point. Cognitive restructuring is another really important factor. Cognitive restructuring involves changing the connections that exist within your mind. When you think about the loop that you get stuck in, those thought loops, there is a corresponding loop that actually exists within your mind. It is a loop within all of the connections of your neurons. Your thoughts are following the same pathway inside of your brain, and so there actually is a loop. And so one of the ways to break that loop is to change the direction of your thinking. And so if we can reframe our negative thoughts into more positive or realistic ones, we can change the direction of our thinking, and we can change the direction that our mind flows. You can redirect the pathways within your mind. Where are my reframers at? I know I've got some reframers in here because we talk about reframing quite a bit. And I know that some of you are pretty good at it now. Where are my reframers at? I'll give you an example of reframing. Let's say that you find yourself looking back on a memory. Maybe it was from middle school. Maybe it was middle school. And you said or did something that was embarrassing. And you find yourself looking back and say, ugh, why was I so embarrassing? Why can't I be social? Why can't I have friends? You know, what? It's because every time I try, I mess up. So we reframe it. We reframe it. We look back at it and say, I was a child. Children are awkward. Children make mistakes. We can be kind of cringy. It's not fair to judge myself as an adult based on how I acted when I was a kid. Freaking love this therapy. Brain domain. Is it considered ruminating if it's something in the future? If it's something in the future, I would consider it more projection, because when you think of, ruminating is kind of something in the past and we project into the future. But no, we can become obsessive and start looping about things that could potentially happen in the future. And so the techniques that we use to address these things, though, thankfully, are the same. Because a thought loop is a thought loop, whether it exists in the past or whether it exists in the future. A thought loop is a thought loop, and you break it the same way. I remember the 6th grade, I did a Spanish project that was so cringy, I was so embarrassed all the way till college, and then I just asked myself, why? Right? What I find to be most helpful is learning how to laugh at ourselves. When we look back at the embarrassing or cringy things we did and we can actually have a laugh rather than feel embarrassment. If you can learn to laugh at yourself, you'll never run out of things to laugh about. It was like that embarrassment that you feel isn't here with you today. It's just a memory of embarrassment. And so why should a memory of embarrassment make you feel embarrassed? Like, you have no justifiable reason to still feel embarrassed today. You know what I mean? Don't let a memory of embarrassment become current embarrassment. Reframing is one of the biggest things about reframing is about adopting a growth mindset. Instead of saying something like, I'm socially anxious, I can't make friends, I can't go outside, these things are impossible for me to do, we need to try to reframe those into being more positive or more realistic. Because when we get caught in these types of deterministic thought patterns, they aren't helpful to us. And so if you do struggle with things like that, it's like, okay, I am aware that I struggle in social situations, but I am working on them. I am trying to get better. Even if it's just identifying that you are trying to move in a positive direction, that's a good way to start the reframing process. Which is why I don't want you to have words in your vocabulary such as, I'm always going to be this way, I'm going to be this way forever, I'm never going to change, I'm stuck this way. Those aren't helpful, and those actually only make those things true. And so we need to embrace our own ability and capacity to change. Let's keep going. We got some more techniques on how to stop ruminating. Let's get to it. All right. Behavioral interventions. Distraction can be a powerful tool. Some people become overly reliant on distraction. But that being said, distraction is still a meaningful and helpful technique to pull yourself out of negative thought patterns. You want this tool in your tool belt or in your tool chest, but you don't want it to be your only tool. The tool chest works best when you have a tool for every task in it. So if you find yourself ruminating, you find yourself caught in a thought loop, that is a good time to distract yourself with an activity. This could be a hobby. This could be doing something physical. Maybe going for a walk, going to the gym. Doesn't have to be anything intense. A lot of people feel like they want to avoid physical activity because they're like, oh, I just can't. I just don't have the energy. If you want to have more energy, if you feel like you're struggling with being lethargic or not having enough energy, you're not going to be able to find that energy by just waiting around. It's not going to just come to your door one day, 2-day Prime shipping from Amazon. It's not going to happen. If you want more energy, you have to actually put more of a demand on your body so that your body starts to produce more energy. Which is why when I started to feel lethargic and why I just like wanted to lay in bed all day, it's like, okay, this is a good time for me to actually get out and go to the gym. Social interaction. This could be spending time with friends. This could be spending time with family. It's connecting with the people that provide you with emotional support. And it also gives you a chance to distract yourself from the thought loops. Having a positive support network is essential to your survival. I don't care how big and tough you are. I don't care how much of a misanthrope you think you are. We need each other. We couldn't have got this far as a species on our own. That's part of the reason why the Neanderthals died off and why Homo sapiens took over the world. Is because Neanderthals, even though they were bigger and stronger and smarter, they isolated. They stayed to themselves. They didn't group up. They didn't, collectivize. Whereas Homo sapiens, even though they were smaller, not as bright, they survived because they had the support of the group. And so it's inherent to our survival to be able to rely and depend on other people, and to let people rely and depend on us. We all need somebody to lean on. Some of you might be saying, but Papa B, I've got nobody. And go out and find them. They're out there waiting for you. Go out there and find them. There are people out there who would die to be your friend. And they're waiting to meet you. But they're not just going to show up at your door. You gotta go find them. All right. Self-compassion and acceptance. This kind of ties into some of the other things we were talking about, reframing, being more, positive and trying to look at things differently. But what's really important is self-compassion. We have to be kinder to ourselves. And I know what you're thinking. I need to be hard on myself. It's a hard world out here. I have to be hard on myself. Because if I'm not hard on myself, who else is going to be hard on me? You know what some people do? And I know that some people do this because this is a thing that I've done. And I also know people who do it. We are the hardest person in the world on ourselves. And one of the reasons why we do this is to protect ourselves from other people's judgments or criticisms. Other people can't hurt me. I've already hurt me worse than anyone else ever could. And so we hurt ourselves as a way of protecting ourselves from being hurt by other people. When you think about it, does that actually make the slightest bit of sense? Doesn't that sound really fucking stupid when you think about it? But it's something that I used to do. It's like, oh, I'll protect myself from everyone else's judgments and criticisms by being the most judgmental and the most critical of myself. Because it doesn't actually work. We think that it does, but it doesn't. We are still vulnerable. So please, be kinder to yourself. Self-kindness. Treating oneself with the same kindness and understanding as one would treat a friend. There is a technique that I have taught you all before, and we like to call it the best friend technique. Whenever you find yourself struggling with something or caught up in a certain way of thinking or feeling, maybe you're holding on to regret or remorse, I want you to step outside of yourself and say, how would I feel if this was happening to my best friend? What would I want my best friend to do about this? What would I want my best friend to think or feel? We need to view ourselves as someone that we care about deeply. That is how we heal. How else are we going to heal if we don't care about ourselves? So whenever you find yourself ruminating, imagine it's your best friend that's ruminating. What would you want them to do? Imagine you are talking to your best friend and they tell you that they are struggling with the exact same thing that you are struggling with. What would you want them to do? Dog.
Hey, Atticus.
Alright. I'll move the green screen. Don't move the green screen, dude. You're a good boy. Alright, lay down. He wants me to pet him. Immersion. Oh no, I have the capacity to open a little window in space-time. It's just part of my abilities. Kinda cool, huh? Oh, it's Atticus. It was Atticus coming up for some pets. Alright, acceptance. We want to practice accepting our thoughts and our feelings without judgment. And this is where meditation really shines. You just accept your thoughts and your feelings as they are, without judging yourself for feeling them. You just view them as a thing, rather than the thing that is happening to you. It is just a thing that you are observing within you. In other words, it is what it is. The importance of acceptance is that when we learn to just accept the way that we're thinking and feeling without judging ourselves for the way that we think and feel, it can help to reduce the intensity of these types of ruminations that we get caught in. It is what it is. Alright. Lastly, if this is something that you find yourself really struggling with, talking to a professional can be very beneficial. So this could be therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. That's why on the other side we talked about cognitive behavioral techniques. These are types of things that you can learn and practice more in depth with a therapist. A therapist can help you work through the stages, be there with you to support you as you work to restructure your mind. And lastly, medication can be helpful. You know, if you find yourself just feeling really wired, you find yourself really agitated, really stressed, really anxious, really depressed, medication can help you to take the edge off. Medication isn't meant to cure what it is that you are struggling with. It is meant to put you into a position where you are better equipped to handle whatever it is that you are struggling with. It is meant to be used as a crutch. And there's no shame in using a crutch if you have a broken leg. But you only need the crutch so long as your leg is healing. Same goes for your brain. All right, let's sum it up. Let's sum it up. So, what we talked about today, we talked about what rumination is, we talked about why it happens, and we talked about what we can do about it. If you want to have the best chance at doing something about your rumination, it's really important to understand all of those things. We need to understand what it is that we're trying to work through. We need to understand why it is that we do it in the first place, because for a lot of people, they have these types of thoughts and feelings and they feel like, oh, there must be something wrong with me. This is just my problem. People wouldn't understand it because it's me that's experiencing it. When that simply might not be true. It's really important to understand the mechanisms that our brain works with so that we can understand what it is that we're dealing with and we can understand how to change it. So, by understanding what it is, why it happens, and what we can do about it, we stand the best chance at breaking free from those cycle of looping thoughts. By learning how to understand what triggers us. Another thing that's really important in breaking thought loops is to understand when and where and why am I experiencing these things. Is it when I talk to certain people? Is it when I go to a certain place? Is it when I see a certain type of thing that reminds me of something? You need to understand what it is that starts this process of looping. So we need to understand our triggers. We also need to set realistic expectations for ourselves. We have to let go of perfectionism. We have to acknowledge that we are human, we are imperfect, we will make mistakes. But all we can do is try our best to learn from our mistakes and to grow. We cannot demand perfection from ourselves. That is setting ourselves up for failure. That, and by practicing new coping skills, learning new ways of handling your thoughts, learning new ways of distracting yourself, redirecting yourself, reframing your thinking, changing the relationship with your thoughts. These are essential in changing our habits of ruminating. So, by incorporating these strategies that we talked about today, you are working towards improving your mental health and your overall well-being. There you go. Any questions? Thank you all so much. This has been the presentation. Do we have any questions? Thank you. Thank you. You're too kind. Thank you. Oh, wait. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, thank you. You've been wonderful. Thank you. Any questions? I would say that for most people, you could notice a positive effect in as little as 2 weeks. If you really started to make a meaningful effort, you know, you made time to meditate, you practice your mindfulness, you work on reframing, you might be able to start changing your mind and noticing positive results sooner than you might think. I think one of the things that really sets people back is they assume that this is going to take a really long time. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. Because here's the thing. It's not necessarily about resolving all of your issues. It's about resolving them to a point where they just don't bother you as often or as much as they used to. Things might still pop up in the future that you're like, oh, I thought I was over this. I thought I was past this. And that might happen. That's normal. That's natural. But it doesn't have the same impact or the same effect or the same duration that it used to. And so it's not about being completely healed. It's just about being more healed. Because we're all going to have bumps and bruises along the way. So, any questions before we wrap up with the presentation? How are we feeling? Are you feeling empowered? That's what I want you to feel. I want you to feel empowered. I want you to feel like, you know what? I got this. It's my brain. I'm in control of it. Who else could be? Nobody else but you can control what's floating around up in your head. Also, our brains are pretty good at tricking us into thinking that we're not in control of them. Oh, hey, Penny.
Say hi.
Hey, Penny. Baby. Oh, Penny. Girl, you're clammy. I've always heard dogs can't sweat, but that dog gets clammy. She's evolved. She's learned how to sweat. All right. We got some more questions in the box, so I'm going to get back to those. I'm going to get back to the question box, and then we'll see where that leaves us. Once we're wrapped up with that, I think I'll head to the gym. So let's go ahead and shift back into some questions. This one's from the same person who posted about having a kid. Typing that out brings me so much joy to me, but I digress. The reason why I ask is because of how much of a role model my dad was to me. Unfortunately, he passed when I was just 13 years old. He was a hard-working man with amazing morals, and he taught me so many things growing up. He made it work. We weren't rich, but we had a simple life, but he worked his ass off for it, pardon my French. I really wish I could see him now, and he could see me now. I remember the day he told me he had cancer. We were out hunting one day, and after a really good day, we sat down and he told me, "Son, don't waste your tears on me. Save them for your mother and your wife. If I don't make it through this, be there for your mother and sisters. Tell your mother you love her. Work hard, young man, and go far." 9 months later, he passed, and he taught me to be strong for those I love. I don't know why I'm saying this. I just need to share some of this to somebody. I don't know the rules of this chat, if it has to be a question or not. No, this is fine. Thank you for sharing this. It sounds like your dad was a good guy, and it sounds like he raised a good son. And so I don't doubt that you will also raise a good son. I'm of the belief that we don't go anywhere. The people that we've lost are still with us. That's what I believe. And whenever I need to feel their presence or I need to feel the love that they gave me, I just reach out for it and I find it. And I know he told you not to waste any tears on him, but I think it's okay to cry. I think it's okay. Because here's the thing. I don't think there is such a thing as wasted tears. You can look back on the things that he taught you and the time that you had, and you can weep with joy. And there's no shame in that. It doesn't have to be tears of sadness. But thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry for that loss, but I feel like, you know, he still lives on through what he's taught you and the values that he instilled in you, and, you know, I believe that he's still looking out over you. How do you treat brain fog? Ah. My brain is fogging. When I think of how do we deal with brain fog, I think of, you know, we want to try to address it from every angle possible. Sometimes it could be, you know, what am I eating? Like, what has my diet been like? Have I just been eating junk food and drinking soda and, you know, like fast food? Like, because I feel like that does also contribute to how our brain is operating. Am I getting enough exercise? Am I taking proper care of my body? Am I taking good care of myself? Am I meeting my own needs? If we have all of our needs met, mentally, physically, spiritually, hopefully the fog will start to clear. If not, We might need to start looking into adding some things. We might need to add on to it. Maybe making more, to-do lists, keeping notes, making a schedule, keeping a planner. I think the best way to clear your brain fog is to rise above it. To just keep climbing. Just try to connect with your highest possible self. So, practice that mindfulness, practice that grounding, practice that meditation. Allow that fog to dissipate. There were definitely times in my life where my brain felt foggy. And I think what helped me the most is just by staying genuine with myself, taking good care of myself, and just giving myself the time I needed to get through it. I feel like I don't have the ability to feel accomplished. Typing this out was an accomplishment. There are people in this chat right now who are struggling with similar things, that have a hard time typing out and putting to words what they're struggling with, and you were able to do that. And so this is an accomplishment. Even just putting your thoughts into words and talking about them, that is an accomplishment. So I want you to just try to be mindful of that in this moment and to recognize this accomplishment for what it is. Due to things like depression and several events unraveling in my life in my teen years, I did not do well in high school and I was not able to set myself up for success in the future. Because of this, I ended up encountering many failures and uphill battles. However, now that I was able to get myself into a fairly good college, I feel extremely behind in life, and if I had accomplished a lot of these things earlier, maybe I would have been proud. Maybe. Maybe not. There's nothing we can do about it. All we can do is keep moving forward. We can't get hung up on those maybes. We gotta focus on the here and now. It is what it is. What do I want to do about it? Where do I want to go from here? All of your potential exists right now. It's not in the past. It's not in the future. It's right here, right now. Now, whenever I think of these goals that I've achieved, I feel reminded of my failures and being behind in life. I feel like I'm drowning in the ocean and I can't come back up to the surface for air. First due to setbacks and not achieving my goals, but now reaching those goals makes me feel ashamed for how far behind I am. I feel you. I hear where you're coming from. There is no success without failure. Failure is a part of success. Anyone who you view as successful or accomplished has experienced their own failures along the way. What's important to remember is that We are not here to compare ourselves to anyone else. You're not behind anybody. You're right where you are, and you're right where you're meant to be. All of the things that have happened in your life have brought you to this moment. So what do you want to do with it? How much more time do you want to spend regretting the things that have happened? When do you want to allow yourself to let those things go? How much longer do you want to hold on to that shame? Does it serve you, or do you want to let it go? If you want to let it go, recognize that you want to let it go. It's not so easy to just say, I want to let it go, poof, it's gone, but acknowledging that you want to let that shame go and that it's not helping you get to where you're trying to go is the beginning of letting it go. I've carried it this far, I will carry it no further. I'm going to drop it off here. I think it's important to be fair to yourself because I feel like, first off, you're not giving yourself enough credit. I feel like you're not being kind enough to yourself. You're not recognizing your own success. In spite of all of those failures and all of those uphill battles, you are where you are. And you did that through your own ability. You did that through your own determinedness. Your determination is the word. You did that through your own strength. And that means something. It was you that got you to where you are right now. And it will be you who gets you to where you go in the future. We don't need to tie shame into our accomplishments anymore. Just think of it rationally. Think of it logically. Does it make sense? Is that fair? Is that compassionate? Is that kind? Do I need to feel ashamed for my achievements? No. And here's the thing. If you want to start feeling more accomplished and start feeling more proud of your achievements, view it as a skill. View it as a skill that you are trying to practice. So I want you to think. In spite of the failures, in spite of the setbacks, you've gotten to where you are. And you were able to get yourself into a good school. What if this was happening to your best friend? How would you want them to feel? I feel like these judgments and criticisms that you carry, they're no longer serving you. In some ways, these feelings of shame have been what have helped to motivate you, if that makes sense. But I don't think that you need them anymore. I feel like that you don't need them because they're actually starting to hold you back instead of helping to propel you. Because that's the thing about guilt and shame, is that it motivates us to do differently, to try harder, to do better. And it has. But you don't need it anymore. You've grown out of it. You're ready to move past it. It doesn't matter when you do the things that you're trying to do. It just matters that you're trying your best. So just keep up the good work. Your failures are not what define you. What defines you is your ability to fail but get back up and try again. So give yourself some grace. Show yourself some kindness. You earned it. I want to give you a round of applause for all your hard work. Give him a hand. Anything that you don't need, you can let go of. You don't need that shame. But I feel like there's a part of you that feels like you do need it, and I want you to really start thinking about and confronting that aspect of you. Why do you feel like you need it? Because in reality, I feel like deep down you know that you don't. You know that it's not serving you. You know that it's actually hindering you. So take a look at it. And ask yourself if you're ready to start letting it go. Good presentation. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Part of my job requires public speaking, and anytime I know ahead of time that I have to do it is almost like I'm constantly thinking about it and about it going poorly. Like I wake up in the middle of the night several times thinking about it. Not sure if that is considered rumination, but I will try those techniques. Thanks. So, in a way, it's very similar, but it just has to do with, am I looking into the past or am I looking into the future? When it's the past, we consider it more to be rumination, because the term rumination just kind of means, you know, that you're revisiting things, you're stewing over things, you're, you know, stuck in something that happened. Whereas with anxiety, we kind of project our thoughts into the future, like, oh, what could go wrong? I'm imagining the worst case scenario so that I can prepare myself for it. So they operate under a really similar principle, and we don't really need to get too caught up on the semantics of like what word we choose to describe it, because realistically it doesn't really matter that much. But what's important to remember is that those techniques that we talked about are helpful for whether it's in the past or whether it's in the future. The techniques and stuff that we went over today are going to be helpful for either case. Now, when it comes to the future, I want to add to it because there's actually more that we can talk about specifically for when things are going in the future. I want you to think about what it would be like if it went perfectly well. Because anxiety and excitement are produced in the same part of your brain. And your brain can't really produce anxiety and excitement at the same time. And so right now your anxiety is asking you what could go wrong. But what we want to try to ask ourselves instead, and this is a way that we can redirect it, a way that we can reframe it, is by asking ourselves what could go right. When does it cross the line into obsessive? I would say it crosses the line into obsessive when you are thinking about it and it is causing you stress about thinking about it, or you find yourself unable to not think about it. When you find yourself fixating on it or just, really caught up into it. So I get what really matters is time, intensity, and duration, or frequency, intensity, and duration. How often, how intense, and for how long. That was my question, and yeah, I always think about it negatively, but I never thought about going well. Just think about this. Think about anxiety as a monkey that lives inside of your brain, and that monkey's trying to find a job because the monkey likes to feel useful. And the monkey's really good at saying, hey, you should watch out. There's a bush over there, and there could be a tiger behind that bush. So we need to be careful when we walk past that bush because there could be a tiger in it. But we want to try to give that monkey another job. We say, hey, monkey, what could go right? What sort of treats could be in that bush? That's a berry bush. I love berries. The monkey says, ooh, good idea. So, whenever you catch yourself thinking negatively, asking yourself what could go wrong, that's a great opportunity to practice our thought stopping. And we don't want to be mean to ourselves. We don't want to be judgmental of ourselves and say, oh, why am I doing this? Why am I so focused on the negative? Why am I so anxious? That's not going to be helpful. That's just adding judgment and critique and making it even worse. What we want to do is say, aha! This is a moment where I can practice. This is a good thing. This is an opportunity for me. So I'm asking myself what could go wrong. I'm going to ask myself what could go right. So whenever you find yourself asking yourself what could go wrong, just try to take a moment to also ask yourself what could go right. I feel like you owe it to yourself to ask yourself both of those questions, not to just focus on one or the other. Balance in all things, partner. Thank you for the rumination presentation. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, I'm starting to get sweaty. I've been working on my rumination for a long time. I've noticed that when I start to get lazy, eat more junk food, seasonal depression comes in, etc., that the rumination starts again. Does this mean that the rumination will always come back when I start to become lazy with taking care of myself? I know you're not a fan of absolute thinking, however, I want to know for my own peace of mind that if the rumination can be expected to come back regardless of how much work on it and how much time has passed. All right. Let's talk about it. Would you consider me an expert on handling feelings of rumination? Would you look at me and say, hey, this guy probably knows a thing or two about handling his own rumination? Maybe you perceive me as some sort of rumination expert. I will still ruminate. At some point in the future, at some point in time, because it happens. It's just something that our brain does. And so it's not about getting rid of it altogether. What's most important is learning to recognize when we're doing it and becoming more skilled at redirecting ourselves, reframing, reorienting ourselves, distracting ourselves whenever we catch ourselves in that moment. And so it will pop up from time to time. It just will. It just will. But you can get better at handling it. You can get to the point where it might not even bother you at all. You might find yourself ruminating, but you're only doing it for maybe a couple minutes, or maybe just a few seconds, and you're able to pull yourself back. I would just look at rumination as a side effect of having a human brain. It's just one of the things our brain likes to do, is it likes to stew. And so, I want to talk about one more thing. You have noticed that there is a correlation between when you ruminate and the things that are happening within your life in those moments where you do ruminate. So I would try to view rumination as a reminder. Like, oh, I'm ruminating. Maybe I'm not taking good enough care of myself. Maybe I'm eating too much junk food. Maybe I'm being lazy. And so when you catch yourself ruminating, it doesn't need to be something that's like, oh no, here we go again. It could be oh hey, this is my body giving me a reminder that I need to start doing things differently. Is this why pro and cons list are so helpful for me, for my anxiety? I would say yes. Because our brains tend to be overly fixated on the negative, but if we're able to take what could go right into account as well, it can help us to manage our anxiety. Because the part of your brain that thinks about what could go right and the part of your brain that thinks about what could go wrong, it's the same part of the brain. We have within us a mechanism that exists within our brain, and it gives us an ability to prepare for the future, good or bad. Why does it focus more on the negative? To try to prevent us from being harmed. It's trying to protect us. And so I would try to reframe the way that you view your anxiety. I would try to view your anxiety as an overeager protector. And what we want to try to do is recognize it for the tool that it is. It is there to try to protect us from future harm, while also recognizing that sometimes it gets a little overeager and sometimes it imagines dangers that aren't even there. My husband committed suicide last week. I think it's my fault. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. First off, let me say, this would be stressful for anybody. This sounds incredibly stressful. But it's essential for me to remind you that this is in no way your fault. The only person that is ever responsible when someone commits suicide is the person that commits suicide. It is their choice, it is their decision. It is in no way, shape, or form your fault. And I'm sorry to hear that you're dealing with this. This sounds unbelievably stressful. It isn't unusual to feel this type of way when a person in our life commits suicide. This is a natural response to it, to feel like, well, what way did I add to this? In what way did I, make this happen? And it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And it's okay to not know what you're supposed to do, because this is a lot to deal with. This is a lot to think about. This is a lot to process. So just please be kind to yourself. Give yourself the time you need to figure out what it is that you need to do and how it is you want to feel. Above all else, just be kind to yourself in this time. And it's not your fault. Can we bring it in? Can we bring it in? Can we get a group hug? I need it. I feel like we all need it. Can we bring it in? We're here for you. We care about you. My heart goes out to yours. Just please take good care of yourself, alright? This isn't your fault. Just please be kind to yourself. You haven't done anything wrong. I told the police everything. It sounds like he might have just been having a hard time dealing with the accountability of all of his own wrongdoing. And based on the things that you've told me, it sounds like he treated you terribly. No, you didn't push him there. You didn't do, like... Everything that he did to you that you told the police about, that was his choice. You didn't make him do any of those things. You didn't make him abuse you. You didn't make him do any of those things. Those were all his choice, just like it was his choice to take his own life. You just really miss him. Just allow yourself to feel those feelings. Just feel what it is you need to feel right now. Please, just don't blame yourself for this. This was his choice. Fifteen's right. It's okay to miss him. But he's responsible for his own actions and for his own choices. It's okay to grieve. Give yourself the time you need to grieve. Don't make any expectations or demands of yourself. Just show yourself some kindness and grace and allow yourself to process what it is that you're feeling right now. We're here to support you in any way that we can, so, you know, you don't have to be alone with these feelings. All right. I'm getting sweaty. But I think it's time for me to go to the gym. I've been working out. Has it started to show? All right, everybody. I think that'll be it for today. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. So please be kind to yourself. Show yourself some love. Take good care of yourselves. Have a great night. And I will see you all next time. Stay safe out there, everybody. Much love. From my heart to yours. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next time. Should be back tomorrow. So, see you then. Bye-bye.